Good afternoon and welcome to BizTech's Asian Midday Market Watch. Kelvin Wong, Senior Market Analyst at Oanda, is our guest today, this 9th of June. Kelvin, as always, great to have you on the show.
My pleasure, Brian, and happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Now, hopefully, markets say happy Friday as well. But let's take a look at markets before we get insights from you. We're going to start with crypto markets first. Bitcoin is at 26,503. It's up 0.38%. Ethereum is at 1,838. It's down 0.01%. Now, looking across the regional equity markets, we start with the SGX. The SGX is down 0.03%. KLCI in Malaysia is up 0.05%. Shanghai is up 0.02%. The ASX All Ordinary is up 0.38%. The Nikkei is up 1.77%. The Hang Seng is up 0.17%. Rounding up the numbers, we've got the Kospi, which is up 1.08%. Kelvin, your views on market performance in the first half of the day? Mostly green, though.
Yes, definitely. So what we could see over here is a positive impact. Number one, from a spillover, we call it a positive close on most of the major US stock indices feeding into Asia. And secondly, most important over here is we have a key data that is out from China earlier this morning, which is the inflationary situation in China for May, both on the consumer side of the story as well as the factory gate, which is the producer prices index. So both data are actually kind of lackluster, so pretty bad, I would say, especially on these PPI data. So the PPI data actually continue to plunge close to 6 to 7 months of contraction. And the CPI data actually came in also below expectation at 0.2% year on year. So what we could see over here is there is actually a big risk that China now is facing a kind of a deflationary spiral. That means talk about weak growth and weak prices since February. That means after the growth spurt that we see on the China reopening narrative. So markets are always forward-looking. So now it seems to us that bad data is equivalent to positive price action as from the market. Why? Because right now there's an anticipation that the Bank of China may actually cut one of its benchmark interest rate. That means we're talking about the 1-year medium-term lending facility that they have kept unchanged at 2.75% since August last year. So that is actually the rate where actually major banks, commercial banks in China could actually use a kind of a window facility to borrow from the Bank of China. And why do we say that there's an increase of this possibility of an interest rate cut next week is due to the fact that number one, big data we highlighted earlier, and secondly, yesterday, under the guidance of PBOC again, the Chinese central bank, the China major banks are actually have lowered their certain tenure of their fixed deposit rate. That's the second reduction close to within a year. So that as per se is indirectly translated to a lower cost of funding for the banks as per se itself, because deposits are considered as cost of funding for banks, which actually translate to potential lower lending rates in the near future.
So this is really quite a stark contrast to for example, what's happening in Singapore. Singapore, DBS has in fact is so flush with liquidity. It's just basically lent 30 billion to the Monetary Authority of Singapore. And this is a stark contrast, obviously, to the US, where there is liquidity concerns, especially in the mid-sized banks.
Yes, precisely. So what we could see right now is a bit of bipolar bipolar we call it scenario taking shape in the global financial markets right now. That means the US is still facing a liquidity crunch, whereas in Asia itself, for Singapore and maybe perhaps China itself, we may start to see a bit of liquidity abundancy that is coming into the marketplace. So very interesting over here is that we may start to see very interesting price movement going forward into the second half of this year.
Now, Kelvin, looking ahead to next week, what should we be watching out for that could move markets?
Yeah, so there are actually three key data and events that I'd like to share. Is firstly on next Tuesday will be the all-important US CPI data for May. So that could actually be a driver in terms of market expectation on how the Fed will actually change or maintain its current monetary policy stance. And on Wednesday, we have this the most important data for the week or even for the month, I would say, will be the Federal Reserve FOMC monetary policy decision outcome. And most importantly, on this FOMC meeting on Wednesday, it's where they actually kind of release their latest dot plot. What is dot plot? So basically, dot plot is the latest economic projection, key economic projection in terms of inflationary data and growth for the US for short to medium term and long term. And most importantly, is the FOMC members where they think the Fed funds rate will be in the short term to medium term as well. So the previous dot plot itself, they actually maintain their status of no cut for this year. They're also expecting a cut only to come in and perhaps close to the second half of 2024. So let's see how the adjustment or will there be any surprise changes for this dot plot. And also most importantly over here is that market right now, if you look at the kind of expectation about 3 months or 2 months ago, we're actually expecting close to 100 basis point cut before 2023 ends. But based on the latest data and the latest Federal Reserve guidance in a couple of weeks ago, now this 100 basis point cut, which is 1% point cut, has been dropped down to only 25 basis point cut before the year ends. So right now, it seems to be that market now is looking for higher for longer interest rates. And lastly, we have the PBOC, we call it 1 year medium term loan facility. The interest rate decision is out on Thursday. And Thursday, we also have three important key data out for China as well for May, which is their retail sales, the industrial production, as well as the housing price data.
Now, Kelvin, on that note, thanks for your insights. Thanks for coming on the show.
My pleasure, Brian.
We've been speaking to Kelvin Wong, Senior Market Analyst at Oanda on BizTech's Asian Midday Market Watch. I'm Brian Fernandez. This interview will be on our website, www.biztech.asia, as well as our syndication partners, TV stations, radio stations, and websites. Thanks a lot for tuning in.